Hello again, everybody. This is Steve, coming to you with an intro on another series that I've written. This time it is the Offworld Chronicles. Uh, this one was a fun series to write. Hard, but fun. And part of what makes it hard is it's not like the other ones, like Earthfleet and Land of the Lions. This one is what is known as a super series. So, what's a super series and what's the difference? Well, Earthfleet and Land of the Lions are what are called episodic series or episodic novels. Basically, what it is there's a larger overarching story in the background. However, the individual novels are written such that they can stand on their own, so that if you could pluck any one of those novels out at any point and read them and not be completely lost, because they're literally designed to stand on their own, even though they tell a larger story, just like the Earthfleet saga. 4 different books, but they're each episodic and they each tell a different part of the story, and they can each stand on their own. A super series, on the other hand, is one gigantic story. It from start to finish, it's all one story. So you can't like pull one book out of there, pick it up, and know what's going on. You got to read the whole thing. And like I say, the individual books don't stand on their own. They rely on that series. Now, that's not to discourage you from reading them. I'm just saying, don't pick it up in the middle and expect to know what's going on. I mean, you could pick it up pretty quickly once you get a little ways into the book, or through 2 of the books or something like that. But you're not going to know all of what's going on as soon as you pick up that one book. But that's not a bad thing. The whole series itself is around 750,000 words. And to compare it to other known large series and trilogies and things like that, think of Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings across the 3 books is 450,000 words. This series is almost double that, just to give you a point of context on how big it is. The whole series starts off in book 1, The Race, with the main character, main protagonist, named Simon Williams. He is kidnapped or abducted, however you want to say it, and taken to an alien planet like 1,800 light years away, known locally as Offworld. However, and this is not a fictitious planet. This is an actual real world planet that exists. And that would be Kepler 452b. It is a Class M planet. Moons, 2 large, 1 small, all rocky. And it's pretty much like Earth. It's got relatively the same number of days. A few more days, but not too many. It's about the same as Earth. And it's got a Type G star. Actually, it's a yellow dwarf, which is what ours is, but it's, Type G star. And, it's pretty much the same thing as Earth, just a little bit different topography and stuff like that. It's also, you won't see this in the book. This is just a note I put in here. One of the alternative names to the planet was Diacales. I ended up not even using that. Like I've said in my other videos, this was my writer's notepad. Some things aren't accurate because they never ended up making it into the book, but they made it into my notes. So if you don't see it in the book, but you see it in here, don't be surprised. It's probably something I have not removed, because it wasn't, it was something I had recorded for use, but ended up never using, or it got edited out for whatever reason. So, don't freak out if you see something like that. But anyways, the planet itself consists of 2. Well, it's basically 1 planetary ocean and 2 large continents. If you want to picture roughly what the 2 continents look like, if you're looking at it from a top-down viewpoint with, North Pole up, South Pole down, and you're staring at the planet, you're going to have this primary supercontinent. I'm trying to remember the name of it. Fine, we'll just search then. Right live while I'm doing this. Yeah, okay. Neustron is the first continent. I was thinking that's what it was, but I couldn't remember. Yeah, Neustron is the first of 2 continents on this planet. If you want something comparable to what it is, picture the continent of Asia, which includes like Russia, China, the Middle East, India, all that like that. That is essentially Neustron. It's this gigantic, about 4,000 mile long continent, or mile wide continent, excuse me. So from shore to shore is about 4,000 miles. That's the main continent. To the far, far east on that continent is the reception center. There it is. That basically, this is where all of the racers first come in. It's different than this picture. This is the closest I could come to it. It's still not completely accurate. It's really tall. You know, the central. I mean, there are parts of this that are accurate, but like the central tower is more tubular, and it's got multiple floors and windows in it. You got people staring out at you. There's like this big picnic area out here where everyone gathers after they've been in processed in the reception center. And basically, you're kidnapped and brought to this planet, dropped at the reception center. That's where they prep you. You get your implants. You get your initial supply, your initial items, starter, like your initial starter pack, for example, this here. Basically, you're allowed to pick 3 things that you can, from the. Let's see here. Okay, when you're first brought in, they give, they check your implants, they make sure everything's working, and they hand you a backpack, and they give you kind of this real quick, welcome to hell. I hope you have fun. That's basically what it is. They're a little politer about it than that, but not by much. And you come in, you process, you're shoved off into this one room, and you meet up with this talking hologram. And it stands in front of one of these things. These things are what are called a resource node. I know I used the same picture, but why not, right? Because this one's the first one you run into called Checkpoint Home. It's at the very start of the race trail, and it's inside the reception center. So there's technically 2 of them there. But they take you into this little private side room, and they ask you, what 3 things do you want? You have, because you start out with nothing but like 3 days. Your initial starter pack is 3 days of food, spare hiking clothes, canteen of water, filtration kit, instruction manual, and a map of the course. That's it. That's all you get in your initial pack. Then you have to do, you choose your 3 items that you want to start with. Like you could have a knife and a flashlight. You could have, they literally, and there's one character in here who does this. He literally goes in and he orders a Game Boy and a media player. I don't remember what the media player was, but he basically has like headphones, media player, and a Game Boy. That's how he starts out. He still has his pack and his stuff in there, but he's like, I'm going to have my toys. I got to have my toys on the trail, so. And Simon, when he meets him, Simon's actually picked very logically, and the other kid, the kid he meets is just, like a complete fool. And it's funny because they're just like these complete polar opposites. The kid picks badly, Simon picks properly. So literally, if you have enough points, because you have 3 resource slots, and those are kind of roughly explained in the book, but you have 3 resource slots, and you can, when you come up to that node, you can either use all 3 of them, or you can choose not to use them. The node kind of tries to convince you that you do need them, so pick wisely. And if you've ever done RPGs, you come up to those little resource points, and or like the stores or the shops or whatever like that. You go inside, and you can, go over and order something and say, I would like that knife, or I'd like that shield, or something like that. Same general idea. If it, there's, you aren't allowed everything and anything you could ever want, but you have a pretty broad selection of things you're allowed to have. And the funny thing is the first three things that Simon picks up, and when you read about him, you'll understand why. The first three things he picks up is a Bible, a survival knife, and a compass. And the hilarious part is they don't have a regular magnetic compass. They have this thing that looks like a cross between a PDA and a smartphone. And it actually turns out to be the best thing to happen to him because it's a compass, but it's a smart compass with a map system and all kinds of other cool stuff. So it's a kind of like a handheld info screen or HUD or whatever you want to call it. It literally has all this information that you could ever want at your fingertips. It's really cool. It tells you where you are on the trail. If you get off the trail, it tells you how to get back, tells you what's ahead, where your resource nodes are and everything. It's a really neat device. I'm trying to think if I had that recorded. Navigator compass. Yeah, there it is. So yeah, one of these things basically. This is what it is. It's just this little handheld, like I say, PDA/smartphone. It's waterproof. You can beat the crap out of it, and nothing bad will happen to it. I mean, if you beat it with like a boulder, it might break, but who's going to beat it with a boulder? But anyways, that's one of the three things he gets. And like one of the other ones was his his survival knife, because one of the things about Simon, and I'll show you his page here. Simon's an interesting character because he is he kind of runs with a dual skill set. I can't say dual personality. He's got a single personality. He's got a dual skill set. He's also kind of the exception to this race because one of the things that the controllers are the guys. I'll go over here real quick. Controllers are these guys. They're Section 17, which is a bunch of, basically they're the cliche Men in Black. And yes, I used a cliche in this because I thought it would fit perfectly. And then you have the Alien Brotherhood, which they call themselves aliens and they pretend to be aliens, the grays and the blues and stuff like that. They're actually demons in disguise. So you've got a dark organization of humans and then you've got a dark organization of demons. And that's explained a little bit more later in the book what the deal is with that. But anyways, the controllers run the race. They run this whole planet. They've terraformed it. They filled it with technology that would just absolutely blow your mind to the point you'd leave a crater. These guys are just, their stuff is off the hook. It is just insane. Anyways, Simon, like I say, he has a dual skill set, and they're not, I wouldn't say they're complementary because they're polar opposites. On one side, he's a software developer. So he's your quintessential tech nerd. He's not just a software developer, he's a really good software developer. He's top in his company. He's also a hobby farmer, as you can see down here. He literally has a hobby farm. The farm doesn't make him any money. He just basically does it for fun because he comes from a family of farmers. He grew up on a farm and he was surrounded by Amish. He had local Native Americans, I think Cherokee, if I remember correctly. It might be Cherokee or some other tribe. I don't remember who it was, but he had some local Native Americans. And he was learning from all these different people. He learned from the Amish. He learned from the Native Americans. He learned from Boy Scouts. He learned from his family. He is like really, really good at woodsmanship. And he's also really good at technology because one of the little piece of his background is he originally went to Michigan State University. I'm from Michigan, so I'm going to pick a Michigan University that I know about. So, anyways, he goes to Michigan State University for, of all things, farming and agriculture. Well, while he's there in his first year, he has to take something, I can't remember what it was, like a paper or a disc or something down to the data center. And he walks in, and when he walks in there to see these guys and drop this off, and when he walks in, he sees these huge hulking mainframe servers and just falls in love with them. Just all this computers and all this technology. This is a farm kid. He's never worked with a computer in his life. He walks in there and like, I want, just instantly falls in love with them. And he falls in love with him so much that after a while, his instructor's like, "Yeah, you should probably go over into technology. You're good. You're a good farm kid, but I can tell that your love is not the farm anymore. You've fallen head over heels for computers. So why don't you go down to uh, University of Michigan, because MSU is a great farm college. Technology-wise, not so much. I mean, it's getting better as time goes along, but really, it's compared to University of Michigan, excuse me, compared to University of Michigan, it can't hold a candle to them. And I'm not dissing the MSU people. Like I say, you guys have the best farm college. Farm classes and all that kind of stuff. Yours is the best. So if you're a farm kid and you want to study agriculture, go to MSU. If you want to study technology and science, go to U of M, because U of M has the top hospitals, the top doctors, the top technology. I mean, they are just the tech school. Anyways, now there's others out there. I'm not saying there isn't other colleges or possibly better colleges. I'm just saying to the ones that I know. MSU is great for the agriculture, wildlife, husbandry, stuff like that. U of M is great for the technology, medical, etc. like that. But anyways, he goes down to U of M and gets a degree in software development and becomes a software developer and becomes a really good software developer. So it's not like he made a foolish move and went into something he shouldn't have. No, he went to something that ended up, he ended up taking off with just like gangbusters. He was really good at that. And as you get into the book, you start to understand why he has this dual skill set. Because, long story short, God knew he would eventually come to this planet. And going back to an earlier statement, that why Simon's the odd man out is not just because of his dual skill sets, which are completely opposite of each other. Simon is the exception to the rule when it comes to abductees, and not the rule. What I'm saying with that is the controllers have kind of this unofficial, unwritten rule that they will not, they can't, that's a hard and fast set rule. They can't take anyone younger than 18. And that's explained in the After Offworld series, why. And until you read this series, don't read After Offworld. Plus, I haven't released it yet, so you kind of have to read this series in order to understand the extra stuff that's in After Offworld. But anyways, they have this hard and fast hard deck, if you will, minimum age of 18. Nobody younger than 18 can be brought to the planet. If you're 18 and older, you're fair game. They have kind of a soft cap on that of 25 years old. That if you're older than 25, you're probably safe because they're not likely to take you. And if you're over 65, no. That's another hard limit right there. They can't take you if you're over 65 and older. And again, for the same reason, they can't take them younger than 18. The reason that the controllers like 18 to 25 is you're old enough to be responsible for yourself, but still young and dumb. You don't have life experience, or if you do, you don't have enough, which makes it easier for them to get away with doing certain things to you. Like they throw you into a really crazy survival situation, you're not going to have the experience to know how to survive that. Now, somebody who's an Eagle Scout or one of the, or in the Army, they're in the Marines, they're in the SAS, etc. like that. They're going to know their way around. They're already going to have all the skills they need to survive. But they're the exception. The majority of people are going to come in there and they're fresh out of high school, they're fresh out of college, or they're still in high school / college. They're just plain old going to be green. They're going to be greenhorns, and that's what the controllers love because you're easy to stop. You're easy to mess with. You're easy to etc., etc., etc. Anyways, Simon is abducted, brought to this planet, and punted out into the reception area, which, like I say, is a gigantic picnic area, big fenced-off area. You got wildlife out there, trees all around. It's a big open field. Let's see. Kind of like this. It's it's just like this here. It's just big open area. In my mind, I actually have, I picture picnic tables and stuff like this. Now, and this right here could be like the little walkway over to the opening of the or the start of the actual race trail, which is basically it's just a couple of those little resource nodes sitting there marking where you start, and it's like that's the only opening in the fence. It's the only way you can get out without crawling over the fence, and the controllers are typically not going to allow you to crawl over that fence. You have to go through that gate. But anyways, he gets out there, and when he sits down at the table, he opens up his book and starts reading. And one of the first things he finds out is, oh my goodness, this thing is a 6,000-mile long survival race. It's it's an adventure race, yeah, but it's a survival race. Basically, the point is you have to go from the reception center all the way to the final ending, which comes up at this wonderful place, Black Mountain. It is the ugliest, nastiest, most horrible place in the entire planet. And it's done that way intentionally because what they want to do is they want to dissuade you from completing the race. Because the way the race is set up, it is made up of 6 hextons. The race is broken up into 6 hextons, or 6 sections. The first 2 kind of get you going, weed out the hopeless ones, the ones that are never going to get anywhere, which they intentionally want to do because they want to thin the herd as fast as possible. Because the more people they can take out of the race, the less likely the race is going to be, it is that the race is going to be won. Now, that being said, the reason that they don't want you to win the race is because if even one person wins the race, everybody gets to go home. Well, not everybody, but everybody who was in the racer that got abducted there. There are people that are there on the planet who are called generationals. This is anybody. Let me go up here. There it goes. Yeah, basically, it's anybody who is not a racer. Basically, if you have 2 racers, they come together, they have kids. You're one of those kids, you're generational. Anybody that's second generation or beyond is considered generational. If the race is won, they have to stay on the planet because they can't go back home to Earth. The racers can. Every single racer who's ever been on that course can go. That's still alive can go back to Earth. So, anyways, so the okay, yeah. Anyways, yeah. Like I say, they make this as absolutely horrible as they can possibly make it to dissuade you from going there, which is ironic because the 5th hexton is literally like the Garden of Eden. It is just this absolutely amazing paradise, and what it is you've already gone through. Well, let me go up here. I got to remember what the links are on these. Yeah, the 5th hexton is sometimes called the Golden Mile or the Golden Lands. Basically, you've just gone through almost 6,500. Let's see, 350. So 6,000 miles minus 350. So 3,650 miles, I think. No, excuse me. 5,650 miles. Sorry. I suck at math, like I've said before. Anyways, yeah, you've gone through over 5,500 miles of just pure hell. And it's not like consistent, constant stuff. I mean, there's parts where you're going along and it's not so much this horrible, terrible, gut-wrenching experience. It's just mile upon mile upon mile of just going through wilderness, going through barren land, canyons, prairies, mountains. It's, by the time you get to the end of that 5,500 miles, you're ready to quit. Because it takes Simon and his team about 2.5 years to cross that 6,000 miles. And it's funny because, like I say, you get to that last, or you get to the 5th hexton, it's about 300 miles long. And it's set up essentially as a honeypot because, like I say, you've been through the worst possible experiences. You just came out of the mountains, came out of the kingdom of Terrafall. And you walk up there, and it is just beauty. I mean, just the most beautiful land you've ever seen. You pick apples off the trees, and they're just the most delicious apple. There's not an apple anywhere in the universe that can compare to these. They're just that good. And you come up onto these towns, and it starts out with this little town of Tarwin, and I think Tarwin's. Sorry, I'm thinking of the wrong one. I got to remember the name of that town. See, this is why I keep a wiki. Hold on, I'll find it here. Season locations. Here we go. Okay, so I forgot to tag it. Fun. Okay, I'll have to find it. Hartcroft, that's what it is. Okay. Anyways, there it is. Yarwin, not Tarwin, Yarwin. I'll have to go back and tag that because I forgot to... Oh, I put it under the world. That's why. I should be under cities. My bad. Let me go fix that. Yeah, like I don't make mistakes, right? I think that's cities, right? Oh, cities and locations. Okay. So yeah, let me go fix those. Well, like I've said before, you want to find problems with your wiki, do a presentation. You will find them. So that's that one. Anyways, Yarwin is the first of a series of cities. It's small. It's a village. It's not very big. It's, I think, like a half or a quarter of a mile across and deep. So again, it's not very big, but it's, and I'll talk more about that as I get further along in this, but basically you walk in and it is just the Ritz. I mean, it's a little village, but it is just absolute luxury. Everything you could ever want. Think of it like a small hotel property or a vacation property. I can't think of what those are called, but basically, you walk in the front door and literally it's a plaza with a hotel and just every possible shop you could ever want. That's kind of what this is, but it's village sized. And then, then you go to is Havlet one of them? Nope, that's okay. Never mind, that's not the one I was thinking of. But yeah, then you go to the next city in there, and that's a little bit bigger, a little bit more luxurious. And the next one, and the next one, and the next one. And then you get to Hartcroft, and Hartcroft is like the ultimate. I mean, you can't get any greater than this. This thing has every luxury, every vice, anything and everything that could possibly capture the human heart is in this place. I mean, this place is just loaded to the hilt with this stuff, and it's just a gigantic spider trap. And what's funny about it is after you walk through this place and you observe all the amazing stuff that this place has, you walk up to the edge of the fifth hextant where it ends and starts. It becomes the sixth hextant. It goes from this gorgeous paradise to blackened, charred, death-filled, nightmare-soaked hell. 50 miles of it to the finish line. And the idea is that you've just come through the previous 5,500 plus miles. You've just walked through 300 miles of paradise, and then you walk up to the edge of the sixth hextant. You take one look at that and go, no. And you turn around, go back, and they've captured you. It becomes a honeypot or a spider trap. That's its whole purpose. Each hextant, like I say, has its unique purposes. The first two thin out the majority of the people. because the majority of the people don't make it out of the first two hextons. Then you have the next two, which are different types of endurance testing. You go through just this, all these different possible landscapes, mountains and seas and deserts and swamps, and just you have bandits and you have monsters and you have empires that want you dead because you're a racer, because they know that if somebody wins, they lose everything, so they're going to kill every racer they can get their hands on. So you got to fight through that. You got seas that, you got oceans and lakes that want to eat you alive. It's nuts. It's just, it's survival is survival race is putting it lightly. I mean, myself, if I got taken there right now, I would just roll over and die before I even got out of the race, because it's just knowing what's ahead of me, I wouldn't even try. It's that bad. And anyways, getting back to Simon here, back to where he was at. Check that real quick. Okay, I got him already, so I just had to correct that one. There he is. Anyways, Simon's the first one you meet in the book. And so he comes out there, he sits down at a table and he starts reading his thing. He's learning about the survival race, and he's reading the manual. This thing literally has a manual. It's just like, starts out just like an RPG race, and that's kind of how I themed the first part of it. And later on I changed the theme around a little bit, but when it first starts out, it's like you're on a RPG adventure. Like I said, I did that intentionally, because I was looking for that feel to kind of follow the whole book. But then as I got further into the story, I realized that tight RPG framework didn't work. Plus, it also worked better if I actually phased out of that, with the explanation that the initial part of it is that way. It's structured so it can help people get going. Because you got to remember, there's two sides to the syndicate, which is the syndicate's another name for the controllers. It's the overarching umbrella that the two organizations sit under. And the syndicate exists because of a treaty back over 1,000 years ago or so. You have Section 17, which were originally known as the Govians. They were kind of a black organization, and they were kind of like the Society. They were, if you think back to Earthfleet, the Govians are kind of the same idea, that they were rushing ahead of everybody else. Well, the demons decided, hey, let's go make a deal with these guys. So they hash out this treaty, which leads to the creation of the planet of Ember, which that's explained elsewhere. That's in a different book that's still in the future of what that was. It's mentioned, but I don't go into any real depth of it. The first real big exploration of it I'm going to do is the book called The Children of Ember. That's going to kind of explore the planet of Ember and everything like that. So it'll take it from being a footnote in this series to an actual planet that you can get your hands on and explore and stuff like that. But anyways, Simon's out there. He's reading the manual. He's doing all of his due diligence. He's doing everything the way he should be doing it. He's preparing his mind and his body, and he's getting himself psyched up for this, planning his travel. How is he going to do this? Where's he going to go? So on and so forth. Well, while he's there, he meets a wonderful young man named Trevor Thompson. And wonderful young man is not what he starts out as. He definitely is not that. He is a street kid from the south side of Chicago. He's an arranger. Plus, he's an enforcer, a contraband supplier and smuggler. He's a real piece of work. Because when he meets Simon, this kid, he's the one with the Game Boy and the media player. And he has just this huge attitude. And he is just really just a real piece of work. Simon thankfully has a lot of patience, because really, if when you read about this kid, The first time you read about him, you're more likely, the first time you would meet him in real life, you're more likely to punch him than you are to welcome him or say hi or anything like that. Just real attitude. And Trevor goes his way, Simon goes his way. What's hilarious is Simon and Trevor keep meeting up along the way. And Simon is like this, very patient as one can be when you're dealing with somebody like Trevor. But he's very patient. He is, he helps out Trevor. He catches food. And one of the first things he catches, which he finds in the manual, is one of these guys. Trovet. It's the local version of a brown hare. And the hilarious part is they're very docile. They're easy to catch, and the controllers made them that way. This is more Section 17 is doing, because you got to remember Section 17 is humans. So, yeah, Section 17's evil, but at the same time, let's not throw ourselves under the bus. So they make sure that they breed this easily catchable rabbit species. They are very prolific in the early part of the race. They kind of start tapering off as you get farther along, but you also start running into other species along the way. But anyways, he helps out Trevor. He feeds him. He takes care of him and advises him and stuff. And eventually he leads Trevor to the Lord. And you start seeing Trevor. I mean, he's still the same street kid as before, just he starts changing for the better. And it's kind of interesting watching these two, because Simon kind of takes on this fatherly relationship with him. It's a very very paternal relationship with him, even though they're not physically or biologically related. He takes Trevor under his arm, and he acts as his mentor, and he helps him out and teaches him. And one of Simon's gifts is he's a teacher. He's a very good teacher, but he doesn't think he's a good teacher. But yet everybody else that travels with him is like, no, you're really good. Even his sister, when you read the After Offworld series, even his sister's like, yeah, he's a really good teacher. Very humble about it, doesn't think he's very good at it, but he is very good at teaching. Anyways, just a second here. Never fails, I always get dry throat and coughs and yawns and all that kind of stuff when I start recording. Anyways, as they're going along, he runs into the first of the 5 people that are going to be on his team. His team is 6 people total, but the first one they run into is Arya. And she's kind of an interesting character because she's from the same area in the south side of Chicago. Literally, these guys would have crossed paths in their past and never known it. They wouldn't have known each other or anything because, like I say, Trevor was an arranger. He worked with the gangs, the mafia, stuff like that. Arya was essentially a street urchin. She was one of those poor people that was out on the street begging for food because she was kicked out at 12 years old just like Trevor was forced to live on the street. One of the things about her was, unlike some people who went through that as kids, she kept herself pure. She did not sell herself. She did not soil herself. She found good friends. She stuck with those friends. Some of them were in gangs, but they took good care of her. Doss was one of them. Doss and her are great friends. You'll meet Doss in After Offworld. I'm not going to explain more on her because she's, way down there in that trilogy, and that trilogy really needs to be read after the main series. But I will mention her for the fact that Arya is very, very smart, just like Trevor is. And even though she has trouble getting ahead and is always starving and is always struggling, always looking for a place to sleep and stuff like this, she still stays very beautiful. She's very kind. She's scared. It takes them a little while to straighten her out once she gets in their team. But she's actually, a pretty good lady. And what's interesting is her and Trevor end up developing a relationship later on. But the first time they meet, they do not meet on good terms because the first time they meet, she steals his dinner and he knocks her out. So, no, they don't start out. It doesn't start out good. Anyways, then they go down a ways and they run in, or Arya runs in, or his team, or Simon's team runs into the bandits that are in the first hexagon. These guys are not regulated by the controllers because the controllers want them there, because the controllers use them indirectly to thin out the racers, and they do a very good job of it. Anyways, Arya gets kidnapped. Trevor fights the bandits, and the funny thing is Trevor knows how to fight street style. The problem is he's an 18-year-old kid against 30-year-old men who fight for a living. So he does pretty good in the fight, but he eventually loses. Now, he doesn't die, but he sure takes a couple of the bandits with him before he gets knocked out. Simon gets knocked out too. He does a pretty decent job of fighting, but he loses that fight. You got to consider he's older. He's fat when he first comes to the planet, because he's the desk jockey, so he's not in the healthiest of shape. But anyways, Arya gets captured. Trevor and Simon get knocked out, and this is where they meet their next team member acquisition. A gentleman, go back here, named Alexander Baker, who is, he is British SAS. He is Special Forces. This guy has lived on the planet since he was 25. He's 59 years old when, 59 years old when they meet him, so he's almost 60. This dude makes his own firearms, his own ammo, his own gunpowder. His dad was a gunsmith back before they banned guns in England. So he knows how to build all this stuff from scratch. He's, like I say, when he's abducted, he is in the British SAS. He is doing all these field missions. I mean, this guy is just special, just OP Special Forces, which is exactly what Simon's team needs. They acquire him. He goes in and rescues, helps Simon rescue Arya, because Simon, even though she's just a new member to his team, he's not going to let her just be thrown to the dust or thrown to the wind or whatever like that. He's going to try to save her if he can at all, even though they haven't been together very long. While they're in there trying to rescue her, which they successfully do, they come across team member 5, because Alex is number 4. Trevor and Arya are one, or what's he? Team member 2 and 3, because he's team member 1. So there's 2 and 3. They run into Barash. This dude, here's a good example of what I used as a character model for him. He is 7'5" and built like a bloody tank, and he is my cliche tank character, if you will. Just absolutely strapping. He's 25 years old. One of the running jokes throughout the whole series with him is when people decide they want to fight him, they want to try to prove that they're the bigger man, they'll walk up to him and stare straight ahead, and all they see is chest hair. That is the running joke with him, is he is so big that you got these big, tall, muscular guys, and this dude's pecs are eye level to those dudes. That's how big he is. Like I say, he's 7'5" and built like a bloody tank. And the last one is Jurg, who's one of my favorites. Jurg is a sentient, technologically enhanced life form that is a tiger. I'll explain more about him in the next video because I'm almost out of time, but his addition into the team is really, really interesting. But anyhow, I'm out of time for this one. I will wrap this up here, and then I will pick up with Jurg again, and I'll kind of go over Barash too, because I didn't give him enough time. So I'll start with Barash, go a little bit more on him, and then go on into like the other characters and some of the things that they run into along the way, and just give it, continue my overview of the planet and different things about it. So stay tuned, everybody, and I'll catch you in the next video, and thank you for listening.